to this Stockbox interview. George Roach, the CEO of Premier African Minerals, is here today following some news from the company regarding the Zulu scoping study. Now, George, we only spoke less than a week ago, and you've had some new news out. It's regarding the spodumene prices with regards to Zulu, isn't it? So what can you update us on?
Sure, Mark. Hi. We did speak just the other day, but it's always good to talk to you. In relation to Zulu, there have been some very interesting news releases elsewhere looking at some significant escalations in spodumene pricing. Now, I felt that with us working on our DFS study at Zulu, it was appropriate that we should ask Barra Consulting, who did the scoping study, to go back, have a look at it, satisfy themselves and us that what was said there was valid and still applied, particularly in the light of where we are today and how we're moving forward, and to just have a look at the economics relative to where spodumene is moving. And it comes back with a very strong case, I feel, for Zulu, and says a lot for the underlying economics of this project and its potential going forward. What was interesting as well is that as we move into the DFS process, there are various things that relate back to the scoping study that will slowly get confirmed item by item and better defined and so on and so forth. And some interesting comments on that are that the OPEX operating cost in Zimbabwe is probably lower today than it was a couple of years ago. The other very interesting one is that we took a very early run again at the logistics costs, because getting from where we are to port and to market and so on is significant. And we were very pleasantly surprised that the logistics cost projected came back exactly where we said it would in the scoping study. So that and the fact that we're back on site, we've got a couple of rigs operating. We know pretty well where the mineralization is. So whilst I'm not in any position to start giving any results yet, we were always confident that we knew we were going to drill into where we'd previously known the mineralization to occur. And as we get our lab at site and so on up and running, we're looking forward to getting some results out fairly soon as well. So all round, a lot of comfort that this has given us. We feel good about where we are. We feel good about the operations as they are running at Zulu. We feel good about our relationships in country, and we're looking forward to a pretty exciting rest of the year at the moment.
Okay. And has this update to the scoping study increased the NPV of Zulu and therefore the value of the project to Prem?
Oh, significantly. And it depends where you want to peg the spodumene price. I mean, we've given a couple of examples in our RNS that we've released. The NPV 10 is significantly up and significantly increased. But it really is a case of where do you think spodumene is going to end up? I seem to recall seeing some very high-priced contract prices very recently. So, I think it's largely for investors and people who are in the business of trading in spodumene to look at this and take a view on what that price is going to be. I've never been particularly good at forecasting prices. I just know that I'm very encouraged with what I see. So good projected increase in the NPV of the overall project. And I think I did remark in my comments in the RNS that it's interesting to compare Prem's present market cap with where the NPV of this project alone, amongst our other projects, is looking at the moment.
Indeed. And then in terms of the DFS progress, George. Does the scoping study influence that? So the DFS now should look nicer than perhaps it was going to?
The important things from the scoping study were that there were no red flags identified.
Mm-hmm.
The process is a relatively known process. The ore body is it's something that there is a lot of work and understanding in relation to. It's just very comforting at this stage to see that some of the things that we're seeing complement what we anticipated coming out of the scoping study. So the scoping study provides direction in terms of where we're going to mine. And a good example of this is that whilst our resource, I think, was a little over 20 million tons, the scoping study concerned itself with a pit of just over 13 million tons. Now, the moment you start increasing your spodumene price, you start potentially going back and revisiting and re-optimizing the pit. The price influences the cutoff grade, influences what you can mine, influences life of mine, and so on. So there are other aspects of the scoping study that we didn't look at. We didn't re-optimize the pit. We didn't do some of those issues that potentially could have added even more value to what the scoping study is projecting.
And what work is being done now then in preparation for the DFS?
The big determiner in this thing is collecting the bigger samples from deeper within the ore body for metallurgical testing and getting the met work testing done. That drives the design of the process plant. All the other peripheral issues around it, one I mentioned earlier, logistics, for example, labor costs, for example, infrastructure within the environment of this and so on. We don't anticipate any issues with any of those. Environmentals, all the environmental assessment work and so on. None of those represent any particular difficulty, we don't believe. But everything is going to hinge around the metallurgical test work, the outcomes of that, and the collection of the major samples from the drilling program at the moment. So hopefully within the time frame, I don't. If there is going to be any slippage, I'll have to announce it, and I will. So at the moment, I haven't announced anything. I don't anticipate it, but it's something for the future.
Okay. Well, George Roach, the CEO of Premier African Minerals, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you indeed, Mark. It's always good chatting to you.
Thank you for listening to this Stockbox interview. For more information, interviews and videos, visit our website at stockboxmedia.com or give us a follow on Twitter by searching @StockboxMedia.